Hello and welcome to CII's research webinar, From Behavior to Results, Finding the Path to Collaborative Scheduling Success. We appreciate you taking the time to join us. This webinar presents a research topic originally planned for our annual conference. I'm Mike Pappas, CII's Associate Director for Deployment. If you look in your GoToWebinar control panel, you'll see a gray bar labeled Questions. Feel free to enter your questions there and we'll address them after the presentation. With us today, we have Research Team Chair Felipe Engineer from McCarthy Building Companies, Vice Chair Joe Gerwick from DTE Energy, academic researchers Thais Alves from San Diego State University, Natalie Scala from Towson University, Min Liu from North Carolina State University, and team members Ryan Altamar from ExxonMobil, Austin Kruger from ASCO, Paul Leahy from Matrix NAC, Gary Orton from Bentley, Luis Rangel from Wood, and Mark Treesh from EPM. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
From behavior to results, finding the path to collaborative scheduling success. Research team number 362. Our purpose was to answer the question, what are the drivers of and obstacles to the development and implementation of collaborative scheduling? Collaborative scheduling is a comprehensive process that aligns and engages stakeholders throughout the life cycle of the project in order to coordinate activities and resources and achieve its goal. We surveyed from across the construction industry to document current collaborative scheduling practices. Our project sector responses came from each CII sector for diverse feedback and perspective. Three key findings of our team's research include the maturity model for developing and implementing collaborative schedules, which has practices categorized at 3 levels: bronze, silver, and gold. Opportunities to prioritize your actions and choices based on their impact on key performance indicators, or the weight difference practices have in helping achieving higher maturity levels for collaborative schedules. And finally, recommendations based on best practices for collaborative schedules. Our team began using collaboration scheduling questions to run focus groups. Face-to-face meetings and focus groups created affinity diagrams. Next, we developed an industry survey that helped to refine the maturity model, pillars, and levels. Survey responses informed the collaboration maturity levels. Next, the industry survey was analyzed. Complete details are in our final paper, while simultaneously conducting interviews to gather the experiences from industry practitioners on how they develop schedules, collaboratively or not, and identify challenges and opportunities for improvement. Our combined efforts resulted in the recommendations we are now sharing to help guide practitioners to the next level of performance regardless of their current collaborative scheduling maturity level. We highly recommend you use the final report to help your projects and dig into the methodology with expanded recommendations and details. But now, it's time to play.
And now, it's time to play Scheduling Feud. Give it up for Felipe Engineer.
Hey everybody, how are we all doing? My name is Felipe Engineer, your industry partner. It's time to play Scheduling Feud. Ooh, we have a good one for you today. Let's welcome the owners team, collaborators, Gary, Thais, and Mark. And over here we have the F9 planners and schedulers, or F9 PNS, because everyone knows planners and schedulers are the same. Ryan. Austin, and Paul. We surveyed people and asked, what does collaborative scheduling mean to your team? What practices are you looking for?
I'm going to say it means getting input from everybody.
Survey says involving all stakeholders. Gary, do you want to pass or play?
I think we're going to play.
Thais, we surveyed people and asked, what does collaborative scheduling mean to your team? What practices are you looking for?
Alignment with the owner?
Survey says owner's expectations. What does collaborative scheduling mean to your team? What practices are you looking for?
We need more meetings.
Survey says oh, Mark, you don't have enough meetings. You love virtual meetings. Oh, sorry, Mark. It is F9 Crew's chance to steal this round. Ryan, we surveyed people and asked, what does collaborative scheduling mean to your team? What practices are you looking for?
We've deliberated on this and we want to make sure that our schedule is visible.
Survey says schedule is visible across the project. Let's look at the remaining top answer. Survey says schedulers and planners work together. Collaborative scheduling, remember, it's a comprehensive process that aligns and engages stakeholders throughout the life cycle of the project in order to coordinate activities and resources and achieve its goal. Let's pause for a quick word from our sponsor, CII.
98% of all mega projects run over schedule and over budget. While capital projects are a multi-billion-dollar industry, improved shareholder value and profit is the product of safe and effective work plans and advanced and accurate data. Are you ready for more efficient projects that improve the triple bottom line? CII is reinventing the projects industry. You won't want to be left behind.
The Construction Industry Institute has identified many best practices to help your team succeed. RT362 builds upon and augments previous CII research and recommendations. These 5 best practices may help your project towards successful completion. Check them out at construction-institute.org to learn more. Our collaborative scheduling model resulted from discussions among our team members and reviews of the existing literature. The aim of this model is to support and guide an organization's pursuit towards collaborative scheduling. The model was refined during multiple rounds of discussion and interactions, resulting in these 5 pillars, or column headers, seen here. Each contains a swim lane or category of specific components that support the goals of each pillar. For instance, goal alignment with owner is a pillar whose components are alignment, interaction, and expectations. This view of the model includes weights that indicate the most important lanes that one can work towards achieving the gold level. Within each pillar, the highlighted words receive the top scores, 100, in the analysis. The column totals represent the weighted impact of each pillar. In other words, as an organization works to move from one level to the next, larger values correlate to more impactful practices to achieve the gold level. Leveling up in the maturity model does also impact key performance indicators. Let's return to the game to examine how this can be prioritized further by organizations working to improve collaborative scheduling by key performance indicators. We surveyed people and asked which collaborative scheduling practices have the highest impact on key performance indicators.
It's got to be having a planner's mindset.
Survey says Ryan, do you want to pass or play?
We're going to play.
We surveyed people and asked which collaborative scheduling practices have the highest impact on key performance indicators.
I think the team's culture has a high impact.
Survey says Paul, we surveyed people and asked which collaborative scheduling practice have the highest impact on project KPIs.
Felipe, it has to be a communication plan.
Survey says Which collaborative scheduling practices have the highest impact on key performance indicators?
We need to make sure we get sufficient stakeholder interaction.
Survey says... Paul, we surveyed people and asked which collaborative scheduling practice have the highest impact on project KPIs.
The scheduler needs to protect the schedule. Limit visibility.
Let's see limited schedule visibility. Sorry, Paul. That's incorrect. All right, collaborators. Mark, we surveyed people and asked which CS practices have the highest impact on project KPIs.
I'm going to go with the opposite of Paul. Schedules must be visible across the project.
Let's see visible schedule. Let's look at the remaining top answers. Clear communication channels, sufficient schedule information sharing, meet owner's expectation. The maturity model and survey together gauge current perceptions regarding the development and implementation of collaborative schedules and their degree of effect on these 5 key performance indicators as a proxy for performance of a reference project's respondents used to answer the survey questions. The analysis used Chalu trees and information theory that helped us identify which practices are perceived by survey respondents as having the most impact on each of the 5 KPIs: cost, quality, schedule, safety, and teamwork. These results were also highly consistent with a separate review of the data using sensitivity analysis and importance weights attributed to different pillars and lanes by our whole team, subject matter experts, which further validated the statistical analysis results. This KPI matrix provides an organization each targeted collaborative scheduling practices to drive improvements in specific key performance indicators. Again, see at the top: cost, schedule, quality, safety, teamwork. For example, the analysis reveals that practices under the pillar goal alignment with owner, highlighted in green, have strong leverage on cost, schedule, and quality, as shown on the upper left corner of the figure. Practices in this pillar represent the top 2 practices driving the cost, schedule, and quality KPIs while also impacting safety and teamwork, as seen on the right. Also, the communication pillar, in purple, as it relates to collaborative scheduling, supports all 5 key performance indicators in different levels with a big role in safety. Use the maturity model to guide your teams towards collaborative scheduling. 3 pillars: goal alignment with owner, scheduling representation, and communication correlated highly with the key performance indicators just noted. The components of the model and specific recommendations are shared throughout this presentation. Let's see the recommendations these 3 provide. Engage the owner in schedule discussions and respect the existing knowledge in the owner's organization. The owner knows best about their needs, operations, procedures, and they need to be part of the scheduling discussion. Major project stakeholders are required to actively participate in the scheduling process. This in turn helps the team make sure that owners' expectations, including milestones, are known and clearly incorporated during the scheduling process, so that all voices are heard, needs and concerns incorporated. Schedule representation represents the value the project team and stakeholders place on creation, use, and management of the project schedule. Have project schedule used within the project to support strong project culture based on accountability, timeliness, and collaboration. Assure that the schedule should be visible to everyone in the project, and a good way to promote that is by having pool planning sessions to engage participants and promote participation in the scheduling task. This will help the schedule be visible to everyone and also support our final recommendation. Validate schedules with input from subcontractors and trade partners. This helps with schedule buy-in as different parties are involved in its development. And engineers, architects, designers, anyone that has work to do to achieve the project. Finally, communication. Our findings recommend a well-defined project communication system. Have regular meetings and good meeting attendance. Ensure effective communication between shifts and crews. Use processes to facilitate collaboration and integration of teams. Define clear communication channels between contract schedulers and owner schedulers. Define a clear communication mechanism throughout the project. Let's return to the game and examine how teamwork improves collaborative scheduling. Austin, we surveyed people and asked what collaborative scheduling practices impact teamwork the most.
I'm going to stick with project culture, Felipe.
That must be really important to show up twice. Let's see project culture. Austin, do you want to pass or play?
We're going to play, Felipe.
We surveyed people and asked what collaborative scheduling practices impact teamwork the most.
I'm going to have to go with, we need clear communication.
Do we see clear communication? Ryan, we asked people what collaborative scheduling practices impact teamwork the most.
I'll say, oh yeah, putting more activities in the schedule.
Let's see more schedule activities. I doubt it. Sorry, Ryan, that's incorrect. Gary, we asked people what collaborative scheduling practices impact teamwork the most.
I'm going to go with collaborative work culture, Felipe.
Let's see collaborative work culture. Survey says. Let's look at the remaining top survey answers. Appropriate agendas for meetings and effective communication plan. Another way to look at the results is to match them against the maturity model and identify the most impactful lanes on collaborative scheduling. The highlighted cells represent the lanes with the most impact on KPIs, moving left to right. Project culture has the strongest pattern associated with teamwork performance. The main practices in these highlighted areas that contribute to teamwork include establishing a strong project culture associated with accountability, timeliness, and collaboration, keeping schedule visibility across the entire project team, having sufficient and consistent interaction between project stakeholders, project team members exhibiting a planner mindset, meaning that the team was actively engaged, timely, and forward-looking regarding schedule issues, team-wide collaboration on, for, schedule updates. Recommendations supporting the teamwork KPI, schedule significance, impact collaborative scheduling include: have the project schedule used within the project supporting a strong project culture based on accountability, timeliness, and collaboration. Assure that the schedule is visible to everyone in the project. Implement the schedule as a culture, not a tool. Respect the different comfort levels of project participants. People should feel safe to speak up during the scheduling sessions without fear or retribution. Our findings recommend a well-defined project communication system. Define a clear communication mechanism throughout the project to facilitate collaboration and integration of teams. This includes clear communication channels between contractor schedulers and owner schedulers. One way to achieve that is to have regular meetings and promote good meeting attendance to work on schedule updates. Ensuring effective communication between shifts and crews so that information gets transmitted to different crews around the clock. We recommend the project team embrace and promote a planner mindset so that the team is actively engaged, timely, and forward-looking regarding schedule issues. Let's return to the game and examine collaborative scheduling methods. We surveyed people and asked what techniques and methods are used to represent and communicate the schedules.
Expensive software.
Let's see expensive software. Gary, we survey people and ask what techniques and methods are used to represent and communicate the schedules.
Let's see if pool planning is there. I'm going to say pool planning.
Let's see pool planning. Thais, we survey people and ask what techniques and methods they use to represent and communicate schedules.
The last planner system?
Let's see LPS. Mark, we survey people what techniques and methods are used to represent and communicate the schedules.
Advanced Work Packaging, AWP.
Let's see AWP. What techniques and methods are used to represent and communicate the schedules?
CPM, Felipe. Let's see CPM.
Let's see CPM.
Yes.
Our survey respondents and interviewees repeatedly cited these tools as part of their systems. The Last Planner System, a pull system framework that connects the project master schedule to the management of production crews via reliable promises. Pull planning is a component of Last Planner System. Advanced Work Packaging. Its three-phase model includes preliminary planning, detailed engineering, and construction. Along these lines, structure advanced work packages by disciplines and involve participants early in the project. Participants mention the use of critical path method scheduling to develop the overall project schedule and for project controls, with some noting analysis relying on the earned value method. Let's get back to the game and see if disruptions like COVID-19 impact collaborative scheduling. We are personally aware of the enormous efforts made by organizations to assure the safety and well-being of their employees and trade partners as a result of COVID-19. Now, with that said, what collaborative scheduling practices impact cost and schedule the most?
Effective communication plan.
Let's see effective communication plan. Ryan, do you want to pass or play?
Let's play.
What collaborative scheduling practices impact cost and schedule the most?
Good participation from all team members.
Let's see team member participation. What collaborative scheduling practices impact cost and schedule the most?
I think for sure we have to meet our contractual requirements.
Let's see do what the owner bought. What collaborative scheduling practices impact cost and schedule the most?
Everyone has access to one project schedule.
Let's see visible schedule. We offer these recommendations to support keeping an eye on cost and schedule, key performance indicators. Our recommendations for that are continue to work on meeting the owner's expectations throughout the whole project lifecycle. Assure sufficient and consistent interaction between project stakeholders. That is further supported by ensuring that the schedule is visible across the entire project team, and the project has an effective communication plan. Let's get back to the game and see what can hinder collaborative scheduling. You're assigned to a new project team. They're not collaborating to develop the schedule. Which roadblocks can be removed to promote collaborative scheduling?
The contract language is in the way.
Mark, it sounds like you're headed to a claim. Let's see contract.
We're going to play. We're on a roll.
Which roadblocks can be removed to promote collaborative scheduling?
It has to be bad communication.
Let's see poor communication. Which roadblocks can be removed to promote collaborative scheduling?
Not hearing from everyone on our team. People issues.
Let's see people issues. Which roadblocks can be removed to promote collaborative scheduling?
Got to get the contractor to agree with the owner's schedule durations.
Let's see contractor durations alignment with the owner. Okay, Paul. Which roadblocks can be removed to promote collaborative scheduling?
I'm going to have to go with my personal favorite on this one. Too little or no training.
Lack of training, misalignment, organizational culture. Our team's interviewees ranked misalignment and poor communication issues high on the list of barriers, which align with past CII research. Teams can improve alignment and communication issues when they eliminate misalignment during the buyout stage by reconciling different project stakeholders' goals, using CII tools and front-end planning process to align people with the project's goals. Implement continuous communication and issue resolution processes to avoid having small issues from becoming major problems. Be and have consistency in reporting to support good communication among team members and promote schedule visibility across the project, which is an important recommendation from our study. Organizational practices and the culture they create in project starts are solidified in written contracts. These recommendations emerged from our complete research effort, including existing literature reviews and interviews. Be intentional and define the demands, roles, and responsibilities regarding the development of collaborative schedules in the contract. Collaborative schedules demand time from experts and those with knowledge of the process to be executed. Assign the right people to the right meetings so that they can make decisions and commit to action when needed. Teams must promote a culture that encourages people to speak up and share their knowledge. Have the leadership of the project set an example of what collaboration looks like. We encourage each of you to consume our research before your current project time ends. Now is the time to use our maturity model for collaborative schedule improvement. With a straightforward self-evaluation, a given project will emerge in one of 3 levels of collaboration: bronze, silver, gold. The sum-weighted total of all swim lanes in each pillar creates project's overall level. Gold is the most collaborative and should be where we aim our efforts to be fully capable. Struggling projects in bronze, the least collaborative, have the greatest opportunity for improvement. Aspiring projects at the silver level are on their way towards more mature collaborative scheduling. The cutoffs for each of these designations were determined using our survey data, K-means data mining, and clustering algorithm. Use our research to score your project and reveal the recommendations that will help you go for gold. Here's a recommendation snapshot from the model for the planners and schedulers pillar. Looking at only the planning mindset, we see that every swim lane in each pillar has recommendations for improvement, like here in planners and schedulers pillar, to move up to the next level. A bronze level project can take steps towards gold first by moving towards silver. Here, implementing processes to identify opportunities to enable proactive planning and scheduling can take the form of workshops, discussions, or planning meetings. There are recommendations for each lane and pillar, including moving beyond gold, gold plus. The differences directly impact project delivery. Let's get back to the game and have the teams weigh in on this. We surveyed people and asked, is there a difference between planners and schedulers?
Yes.
Yes.
Our whole team, RT362, wishes you well as you engage with your teams to discuss ways to prioritize collaborative scheduling actions and choices to impact key performance indicators on your projects. Also, reflect upon our survey and interview findings to see your project through a new lens. And use the maturity model recommendations to achieve higher collaboration scheduling levels. We hope you enjoyed our presentation and are ready to embark on this journey to improve the development and implementation of collaborative schedules.
This presentation is brought to you by CII, changing how the world builds.
You're probably all wondering, who won? Come on, you know who won? The collaborators always win. When people come together, amazing things are possible. Thank you for joining us on Scheduling Feud. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, team. We appreciate that presentation. So we do have some questions here. Let's go with this first one. Have you looked at project production scheduling as a tool to replace CPM?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. I'm looking at the panel coming on. I'll take the first stab, and if somebody wants to add on, definitely add on. So we do know, talking to people in the industry, that there are alternatives to critical path method scheduling, and there are teams experimenting with different types of scheduling in that way, in that planning way, using methods like last planner system of production controls as an example. I personally know of some projects as large as...
Are you ready to start some Q&A with the group here?
Yes, we started.
We're in it, Jenny. Are we coming across okay to everybody?
Mike, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you, Philip.
I can hear you.
Yep, we're good. Yep. We're going.
Okay, please go ahead with the answer.
Yeah, so critical path method scheduling, I personally know of a project as large as $1 billion that used two systems because the contract language required critical path method scheduling be in place. So there was a traditional CPM schedule in addition to the team was using a pool planning methodology called last planner system. And again, the project was $1 billion. So they used both to validate that they weren't going to miss anything, but it was primarily driven by a highly collaborative pool planning effort. That was a project in the United States, in California. Great question, Mike. What else we have? Anybody want to pile on to that before we move forward? I know there are others as well. All right, Mike, looks like they're ready for the next question.
Okay, next question. Sometimes it's difficult. Not all project team members can use scheduling software. Any recommendations on how to share a single version of the schedule with all team members?
There we go. Paul's got something to add.
Mike, there's a lot of ways to get the schedule out of Primavera or whatever system you may be using. There's summary level schedules, there's detailed schedules, there's manpower charts. And I think when it comes to a team on the site, it's one of the things that when you sit in your first scheduling meeting, you can discuss, where if people don't understand how the schedule goes, it's a simple enough tool that you could explain it to them so that everybody is on the same page. For example, I currently have 3 gentlemen working for me who are very new to project controls. They have not seen much schedules, but every time we sit in a meeting, I explain to them how it goes, what to look for, what we're doing, and it starts to come across. And I think when you're on a project with a team and you all come together, everybody will start to understand what the schedule means.
Paul, I might like to add something to that, it's important to meet people where they are when it comes to scheduling as well. And many times we'll see schedules up on the walls and projects where you see Gantt charts that are very out of date. So it's nice if you can just put the milestones up there, at least in a way that people can readily understand them and see things and see just a few dates and get their head around it. And also to have them refreshed regularly and updated so they feel like there's some motion in the project and things are moving forward. I think that's consistent with what you're saying, Paul, but just another take on the media itself.
Appreciate it.
If I could add something really quick there too, I think at least in my experience with some of our projects, having those tailored deliverables and really looking to meet what folks are looking for can be really impactful, even more so than just sharing a schedule in the base. I've been on projects before where we're weeks or months in and people are getting this regular distribution of the schedule, but nobody's looking at it as critically as they potentially could, because it's just not the deliverable that they find most effective. And so then having the conversation, revisiting our deliverables and making sure people are getting what they need has proved to be a very effective way of collaborating and being more effective with that.
Yeah, good one.
Okay, thanks. Next question. Did the research indicate any difference in the impact on different size projects? For example, can this be used on small projects, large projects, mega projects?
Yeah, any of the PIs want to chime in? Natalie?
Sure. This can be used on all project sizes. So what's great about the maturity model is that once you're able to score your project and see how you're doing right now, you'll be presented a set of recommendations that you can take to improve your project. And that is regardless of size. These are continuous improvement recommendations, and they're based on scheduling in general, and you also score your project on how you're doing as a team. So regardless of the project size, it's more about the collaboration and the dynamics and the culture going on with the team. Now, we also have recommendations based on KPIs. So if your project's driven by KPIs, and those types of those larger scale projects may have more impact or more concern with KPIs maybe than smaller projects, depending on, again, the context for the project. We do also provide a set of recommendations based on how your current collaboration is and how you may want to improve KPI performance. So yes, you can use it on all sizes of projects.
Okay, great. Here's a question about materials. From research teams 344 and 363, we know that materials control about 80% of the project schedule, and these materials come from many suppliers. How do you all see supplier stakeholders incorporating into this collaborative scheduling framework?
That's a great question, Mike. I think I'll kick it off. So as part of the early part of the maturity model, there's some sections in there about how to engage the stakeholders and the supply chain at large. One of the things that the teams have to do and be intentional on is to understand the overall milestones, and as they're collaborating down and up and down from the owner down to the suppliers and vendors, they've got to be sharing the information in a meaningful way. And we've got some recommendations in the maturity model to give some examples of how to do that. Sometimes it could be as simple as a meeting. It could be even, don't discount the power of contracts and purchase orders to have dates, expressed in there so that people know and make it more obvious. There's definitely there are ways to do it better. And then as the project starts, even if you're using just a critical path method schedule, like Ryan and Paul were talking about, there are ways to filter and use that software with your project controls professionals to make some of those procurement things more apparent. Anything you guys want to add? Paul, Austin, Ryan, Luis, you guys play in this every day. Isaac?
I was going to say, I can add something really quick. I think the other key element there is time, especially making sure that we're having that collaboration and it's early enough that we can be accounting for it in the schedule, because oftentimes we find ourselves in a position where we might know we need to make a major purchase, something long lead, and we really need to be thinking about engaging with those vendors, or at least possibly accounting for something in the schedule, because you can be very collaborative, but if it's too late into the schedule and you've already established some other milestones for yourself without taking those things into consideration, it might already be too late to adjust for that. So we don't want to put our partners in a difficult position in that sense, to try and catch up to a schedule that they're already behind in. So I think engaging early is really a key element to that as well, in addition to the other things that Felipe mentioned.
Yeah, if I can add something, Felipe, I would say that this is a very good example as well to incorporate different peoples. Usually materials management or material control are people who are going to be later on, usually incorporating into the scheduling, the planning, and collaboration. So I think to the point of Ryan, if you can incorporate that knowledge and that interaction early on, and make sure that this is taken as a really important stakeholder to create the collaboration environment that you need to create a proper scheduling, that's important too.
That's a great one, Luis. And we've even seen some project teams take that information from the schedules or the contract data, and they've made it visible to the team inside of the planning meeting rooms on the project. So if you're in an in-flight construction project, it's common for teams to take parts of their schedule and put it on the wall, sometimes even printing out just large scale Gantt charts with like big notes on what does this mean for release and procurement, hand drawing it on, using, plans that are marked up with information and dates is another visual way to communicate with the trades that have to order and release material and labor to different parts of the project. So there's some low tech ways and high tech ways to play together. You've got to do like we've been saying, like Mark said, especially meet the team where they are, understand like what's working, what's a good effective way to communicate. Not all project teams are the same, as all of you all represent a lot of different variety and how project teams come together. So just be aware as you're assessing this with your team, and don't be afraid to ask your team, like, how would you like to receive this information? That's a powerful way to help establish a lot of these things. That's an enabling question that gets much better communication.
Okay, great. We have some cultural related questions here. So let's talk a little bit more about culture. How do you get the teams to collaborate? It seems to me that forming the team might be a big challenge.
Yeah, I'll start on this, and then I see Mark's got something he's definitely going to add on. I could feel it. But teams come together. It kind of depends on the company and the project and the industry. I mean, oftentimes we don't get a vote. If you're on the team level and you're one of the project leadership people, a scheduler, a procurement person, a contracting person, you really don't have a choice. Like your company, wins and goes after things in your market, and teams get assembled. Some companies do intentionally put teams together, but I don't see that as being the industry average. On average, people are put together based on availability. So what you have to do, if you're on this call and you're listening to the schedule conversation, need to model the behavior with leadership. And if your leadership doesn't understand collaboration, throw them back to this webinar blog and shameless plug, make them watch it so they can understand and start to be thinking about, what's something that they're potentially missing from the last project that they did. Are they satisfied with the outcome? So engaging your leadership early, because they're going to be your influencers on the project, is somewhere you want to start. Mark, you want to add on something? I see you looking there. You're on mute, Mark. We'll help you out. Give Mark a second to unmute himself. He's still muted.
Sorry, Felipe. I think you
are.
nailed it. It starts at the top. You have to have the leadership vision for it. And the thing is, collaborative scheduling is about a shared mental model. And so you have to start that with other elements of the project as well. And if the leadership is showing that there's a major rift, I'll say, between the traditional owner and contractor, owner and vendors, and they're always looking to gain advantage or to drive their own agenda, it's very difficult to get to a collaborative place. So collaborative scheduling is about agreeing on things and getting a shared mental model. And it starts from the top, and you have to instill that culture from the top and say, here's what you expect. Thais, if you could add to that, please.
Yeah, complementing what Mark said, I think our maturity model, and I was looking at the questions on the chat, we provide some pointers as to what the team should be looking at. Is this an absolute list? Is it a comprehensive list? I would say it's a quite comprehensive list, but it doesn't consider everything on the face of the earth. But it's an excellent point to start evaluating what you are doing and actually understanding what kind of culture you have in your project. Do you have a culture that, for example, allows and promotes people speaking up during meetings if they have something to say? Are they safe to talk, to speak up during the meetings? Is the schedule visible? Do you gather input from your trade partners, and are they used to that culture of providing input because they know it's going to be considered and it's going to be valuable? So the maturity model gives some pointers as to the type of culture that you need to create an environment that is conducive to collaborative scheduling.
Right on. And I think another thing to add on, just culturally, recognizing the construction industry today, that we have essentially, two major groups of those. We have a small group or a majority group with a lot of experience, and then we have, the new people entering the workforce today that don't have the 10 years of experience. In the construction industry, because of the economies and different cycles, depending on where you are on planet Earth, we tend to see a lot of experienced people and a lot of newer, inexperienced people together on teams. And we don't have a good average of like a 10 to 15 or 20 year experience. We have like a lot of people with 5 years or less, and then a lot of people of more than 20 years. So when you look around your project team, try to gauge like where people's experiences are. And then also, do you have people from other industries that are joining our project teams as well? So be mindful of that. And like Thais said, if you're not asking for people's input, or the worst thing, committing a crime, asking for input and then never using it, you're going to be stifling collaboration. So be careful what you ask for, and then give people feedback to let them know how it's being considered, so you keep that transparency higher and keep encouraging more input. We've had, in the interviews that we conducted as a team, some great stories about people sharing, how collaboration and ideas can come from really anywhere on the project team. It's not always the superintendent or the single leader having the best ideas and experience, even if they've been doing it for more than 30 years. Sometimes it is that fresh out of college person with some novel idea because they don't have a lot of experience and their mind is more open. So just keep that in mind as you're engaging with your teams and setting your culture.
Yeah, I have one more point to add on. Based on our survey of 241 samples, we found planner's mindset is a big contributor to the project culture. And by planner mindset, we mean that the team was actively engaged, timely, and forward-looking regarding the schedule issues. So that's a big contributor for project culture change.
Right on. Thanks, man. Anybody else want to add on?
Thank you.
Isaac.
Yeah. Just kind of going off a little bit of your comments too, Felipe, from the past question, is getting everybody's input and making everybody comfortable enough by whether you're 5 years into the less than 5 years or you're more than 5 years. Not everybody's used to seeing the same reports and the same data. So it's very important to be all inclusive in experience or the types of data or the position that they're in. So it makes them comfortable enough to share and collaborate.
Right on. All right, Mike, I think we're ready for the next one. It's like Mike's either on mute or he's gathering. There's so many questions to choose from. We've got time. So ladies and gentlemen, please go to the questions box in the Q&A and put your burning question there, because we are here to answer your questions.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I was going to say, let's see, we have a couple questions about barriers here. How about resistance to change from the project team to new collaborative scheduling? What are best practices to overcome this resistance?
Thais.
Very quickly, people tended to give in our interviews when we asked barriers and drivers. In the drivers questions, we were asking for tools and methods and anything. We would say, give me anything that helps. And they defaulted to tools for most of the time. We see on the chat there are lots of questions about tools. Tools are not the answer to collaborative scheduling. They are a means to an end, but they are not the answer. If you don't have the proper practices, if people are not participating, if they don't see that they are valued, that as Felipe and Isaac were saying before, you can put the best tool in the world, it's not going to work yet. People still think that the tools are the solution. And when we asked about barriers, they pointed to people. So the answer is on the table, right? If you keep giving tools and expecting people to use and make it magically appear and solve a problem, that's not going to work. So these are my 2 cents.
Awesome. Natalie, you had your hand up too?
Yeah, so all the work that we did through the interviews, and Thais started touching on that too, enumerate specific barriers that people mention, where they point to people or things like that. But we also have to remember, we can't, if your project is bronze, for example, or maybe not that collaborative, it's not going to become gold overnight, right? So I'm an industrial engineer. I know that I cannot get anyone to change that much overnight. So sometimes the barriers are just to get people to buy into this process and this idea of collaborating. So the recommendations we give in the maturity model, the recommendations we give by KPIs are those step-by-step improvements. Make small improvements over time to increase the overall collaboration in your project. And as we increase the collaboration and people see results, they buy in, they accept these new changes, they accept these new ways of collaborating, you're going to see improvements that last beyond just that project.
All right, Gary, you got something to add on?
Yeah, I think it's really important to start at the very beginning of the project. If you look at RT 272, there's a thing called the maturity model there. If you start a best practice like this halfway through the project, you're not going to get half of the benefit. You've got to start in the very beginning, communicate the intention, educate everybody, and start that culture off right from the very get-go with everybody just in that routine. I think it's really important to start at the beginning.
Right. Paul?
Oh,
Austin first. Sorry, Paul. Austin had his hand first.
Oh, go ahead.
No problem. I think something that's commonly overlooked is not celebrating the small victories. I think if you celebrate the small victories, that really helps with the team's morale and keeps their interest in the change and why they should change. Go ahead, Paul.
So I think it was Mark that said this earlier. It's got to come from the top. So people are resistant to change, but when it comes from the top of the company all the way down, it does help, because then people know it's a company-driven culture, and so people are a little more resistant to pushing back, and they're a little more ready to collaborate. Plus, it takes personalities. If you have a lot of strong personalities there, it's difficult, but you just have to have the patience to work through it, and it does take time, but it does work.
And I just wanted to add on too, if you're meeting resistance in an individual on your project, one of the best things to understand their resistance is not to come at them with the solution. Like, don't come at them and say, I've got this process that's going to solve all your problems. First thing you need to understand is, why are they resisting you? Are they satisfied with the results they're getting today? And engage them with a meaningful dialogue, seeking to understand, what are they being challenged with? And then you can see an entry point in and start to have a conversation about how to increase collaboration, because we know, and the research backs it up, that more collaborative projects finish more ahead of schedule. You have something to celebrate at the end. You have more satisfied clients. Like, we all know these things, but we don't know how to engage with each other and disagree. One of the things that we did as a group when we were coming across these is that we didn't all just see the results and just always agree with each other. We disagreed often, but we allowed a space where people could disagree. We'd give people the time to get their thoughts out uninterrupted, and then we'd discuss and go back and forth. And sometimes we changed our minds and sometimes we didn't, but we always went back to making sure that we understood each other. And that was very helpful. Like you heard from Gary contrasting with, some of the recommendations from the others. That's okay. That's going to happen. Like, there's a reason why Gary thinks that you need to start this in the beginning for the most effect. And there's a reason why I think you can start this at any time. Like, I never think it's too late. And they're both good reasons based on our experience. So recognize that in your own teams as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. The contract was mentioned. Can you please provide some examples of contractual practices that negatively impact collaborative scheduling?
Thais, you're shaking your head. You want to go first?
Yes, I almost answered this question in the chat, and what we see is that collaborative contracts, they very explicitly call for collaboration. If you get a design bid build traditional contract, you won't see anything called for as far as collaboration goes. And as you move on to more collaborative contracts, you see very specific directions. So sometimes it's not the practices that are there that are not helping you, are the ones that are not explicitly included there, saying the team should make time and you should budget for interactive meetings, so that people say, I don't have time to be here. No, it's a contractual requirement. You have to be in the room with these people to plan. And over time, hopefully, they will feel more comfortable with this idea. The other point here is the maturity model has several recommendations on the different levels that we have, the different pillars, lanes. So this could make it to the contract. And also the team on the I2PD project by CII, also they posted several recommendations that are also included in the Lean construction literature. So look for these things and make them, put them in the contract and make it explicitly. Don't let people just do it for, sometimes if you don't have a team that is already encouraged to do that, don't wait for them out of the goodness of their hearts to do that. Sometimes there has to be something written to bring people together, and then they will see that that is a process and they'll keep working on. So we give several comments about that, several leads on our paper about that. And one that is definitely bad is when somebody has to turn in a contract very quickly and they have no input from the subcontractors. So people would talk to us during the interviews and we would ask them, how was the schedule put together? And they would describe the process. And sometimes they had no input from suppliers, which we were talking about material suppliers, vendors before, no input from the trades. I mean, how good of a schedule is that?
Right. And then to balance that, and if anyone has anything to chime in, please chime in. There's still 3 minutes left. Some contract types are more collaborative, but you need to be aware that means the owner is going to be much more involved. Most of the collaboration contracts, like integrated forms of agreement or multi-party contracts, the owner is taking a very highly engaged seat with the delivery team, in contrast to some of the older traditional methods. So keep that in mind. Mark, go ahead.
Just briefly, Thais was talking about specifying certain things and like meetings and stuff like that. The contracts that are on large collaborative types of projects with joint ventures and things often have things about communication plans. And one of our research areas had to do with communication plans, written communication plans. Treat it like a specification, performance spec, and look for that and put that into the contract in terms of what you're hoping to achieve from a communication plan, not just what meetings to have, but what you're expecting, how it's going to serve the project.
Right on. What do you think, Mike? One more question?
Sure, let's do one more. Did you have the chance to apply the proposed maturity model on any organization or project? And if so, did that help the organization or the project team improve their scheduling practices?
What a great question, Mike. So our team, just based on timing, we just wrapped up the paper yesterday, just in time for today's webinar. So we're happy to say that it is done, and I can tell you the paper does include a project based on collaboration from several people on the group to show you how a team today would go through the entire maturity model. Right, Thais? Natalie? Min? They're shaking their heads yes. So there's a yes. It's in there.
The team members also wrote their own examples on smaller pieces also, which is.
And they're all based on true stories.
Great. And with collaborative scheduling and the kind of results we expect, these stories don't have to start with, I had this friend on who had a project, right?
I know a guy.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
once
right.
upon a time.
Speaking for a friend, Mike, not me, not anybody I know, but a friend of mine.
That's right. Okay, well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time and we hope that you found the webinar useful. I'd like to thank the research team very much for your informative presentation and your great Q&A session. Don't forget to check out our events page to sign up for future webinars. Stay safe and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, team.
Thank
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.